Today's question is, 911 operators of Reddit, what's the most disturbing or scary call you ever received?
Answered a call at 3 a.m. from a 7-year-old girl who found mom unconscious on the couch and not breathing. The child knew her address, and it was in the middle of nowhere. 25-minute response at best. I had to talk the kid through getting mom off the couch one arm and one leg at a time because she was too small to just pull her to the floor. Then we started CPR instructions. The kid did great. No neighbors and did not know a phone number for dad, divorced. We ended up getting mom breathing again just as the ambulance pulled up. I cried like a baby when that was over. I was so relieved for that child. 1979 NYC. Got a call from a crying child, a little boy, saying his mom and dad were fighting and his dad said he was going to throw the mom out of the window. I could hear a terrible fight going on in the background, woman screaming, things breaking, man yelling, etc. The poor kid didn't know his address. We didn't have the technology for Call Idaho and would have to use reverse telephone books. A trace would take forever. Anyway, while I'm trying to get the address, I hear a horrific scream and glass breaking. A few seconds later, the other operators in the room are getting calls about a woman lying in the courtyard who came out of a window. Very sad. Worst of all is that I am sure someone else in this apartment building must have heard this fight, but no one called for help until it was too late. Poor kid. Working 911 in NYC during the 70s/80s was a nightmare. The city had a very high crime rate and shit technology. I was a 911 operator in Mobile, Alabama the day Hurricane Katrina hit the Gulf Coast. We started getting lots of calls from New Orleans and the Mississippi Gulf Coast for some reason. I guess they started routing to us after all the 911 centers to the west of us started going down. Anyways, I got a call from a woman who said she was trapped in her house on Gordon Street between Florida and Law. I was confused at first because we have a Florida street in Mobile, and after checking and double-checking and not being able to find her address, I asked her what city she was calling from, and she said, "I'm in New Orleans." I tried to route her to New Orleans 911 and New Orleans Fire Department, but could not get through. She started screaming and said the water was coming up into the attic where she was. I told her to find something heavy and break the attic vent out so she could get out onto her roof, but the vent was too small for her to crawl through. She sat down and started crying. I told her I would stay on the line with her for as long as she wanted me to. I stayed on the line and listened as she cried, prayed, cussed, and prayed some more. A little while later, I could hear her struggling to keep her head and phone above water. Then the phone went dead. To this day, I don't know if she lived or died. I quit 911 3 months after Katrina. Edit. I was a 911 operator for 9 years before Katrina hit. Edit 2. I got involved in 911 after doing some ride-alongs with the police department this summer before my junior year of high school. I started running the radio part-time on the weekends and during the summer when I was out of school and moved into a full-time position after high school when a job opened up. It's not illegal for someone under the age of 18 to work at a 911 center, but I wasn't allowed to actually answer 911 calls without an APCO-certified operator on the console with me until I was full-time and certified. It was also illegal for me to run the NCIC computer without being certified to do so, which I couldn't get certified to do until I was 18. I ran the EMS/fire dispatch console for the county when I was part-time and got my certifications when I graduated. I was also a volunteer firefighter/EMR during this time as well, also not illegal and quite common in rural parts of Mississippi. And thanks for the gold, whoever you are. Although I don't feel right accepting a reward for something I did as part of my job 8 years ago, it is still appreciated. Throwaway, as my place really doesn't like us talking about work outside of work. Had a call for a brother who killed his other brother with a hammer, the pick part, while the victim's little daughter was watching. The daughter called us from another room and told us her daddy's eye fell out. Perp was apprehended, daughter taken by relative. Had to smoke after that one, and I don't even smoke. In true Reddit style, I'm not quite the intended target of this question as I don't actually answer the calls myself. But my job does involve me listening to a lot of them after they've happened. The one that sticks with me the most was a man who was paralyzed from the waist down and had phoned up to tell us that he was midway through attempting to amputate his own legs at the thigh using nothing but a hacksaw and a Stanley knife. He'd laid newspaper down on the floor and everything in an attempt not to get blood on the carpet. Naturally, not long into the call, he passed out due to blood loss. Grim stuff. The toughest ones for me involve kids. Anytime a parent finds their child dead is especially tough. The single worst call I've ever taken, though, was a woman who was calling in that she was hearing weird noises in her house. While walking through her house, she started screaming and told me there was someone in her house. There were a couple soft pops followed by a gargling sound. After the officers had cleared the house and found her, it finally came out during the investigation that her adult son had killed her while high and freaking out. Gunshots don't sound like you'd think on the phone. They're rather soft. It's an eerie sound, something so violent being so soft that if you aren't paying attention you can miss it. I do actually work for a 911 center. The call that has stuck with me the most was a call for two unconscious toddler twin girls. The mom called frantically because both weren't breathing. I stayed on the phone until help arrived, but there wasn't much we could do. The full story, which we rarely get by the way, is that the family went to bed early in the morning. The twins woke up and got up about 2 hours before mom. The 8-year-old took them to her bed and covered them with a blanket, causing them to both suffocate. The real disturbing part is that by the time the officers and paramedics got there, the mom had changed their clothes and rubbed baby oil on them to give them that life look. No criminal charges filed. Edit. I work for a fairly large department, so there are a lot of stories. I don't want to clog the comments, but it's not unusual for a seasoned dispatcher to take calls of people dying on the phone, suicides on the phone, listening to violent crimes like robberies in progress. It's the nature of the job. The only calls that really stick with me are the ones where children are hurt physically or mentally. Oh yeah, and I heard a coworker take a call from a guy that was actively stabbing his girlfriend in the face. Okay, now that you've heard all this, go try to have a good day. I had a woman call in who was hiding in her closet and told me her ex-boyfriend was breaking into her house. She told me that they had a violent history. I got her information and told her to do what she needed to do to stay safe and leave the line open no matter what. While officers were en route, I heard him come in through a window and start beating her. He heard sirens coming and took off. Luckily, since she left the line open, I was able to let the officers know when he took off, and they caught him near the apartment. I think the worst part was the 2 minutes after he left. I sat there listening to the woman weeping and not being able to comfort her because she was too far away to hear me. While there's a lot of love for us lately. In another thread and an AMA that I did, I told my story of having to stay on the phone with a young man for about 40 minutes, maybe a little more, who had a very disturbed man break into his home, and with a loaded shotgun pointed at his face the entire time, demand that he call the police. He wanted a suicide by cop. I now realize that I didn't get overly detailed about it in my other mentionings of it, but this young man urinated himself, almost threw up, and was begging me to keep him alive. I haven't dreamed about it in a long time. It was several years ago, but it stuck with me. Story 1. I once answered a call. Two brothers were arguing over drinks, and one of their girlfriends or wives was over. Anyways, the brothers are drinking heavily, and one pulls out a gun and shoots the other one. When I received the call, I can barely get the guy's address over him screaming to send the paramedics. He keeps shouting, "Where the F*** are they?" While I am trying to stay calm and give CPR instructions and tell him to tell the female there to stop the bleeding, firm pressure on the wound. Furthermore, medical cannot go in on scene until police have secured the firearm. Listening to the pain in someone's voice while they are screaming for help kind of haunts you. Both of them had to be around 30 years old. I couldn't imagine killing a family member. TLDR, two brothers are drinking. One shoots the other. The brother who was shot was already dead when the call was made. Edit. I know I hopped on the train late, but I have a few more if anyone wants them. Edit 2. Sorry, I was actually studying for finals. But here are some more. Story 2. So the next one I got, it was later at night, probably around 11:30 p.m. A female calls me screaming. She was yelling and burning. So I told her to stop, drop, and roll, and once the flames were out, I told her to turn on the hose and put cool water on it until the paramedic got there. Once she was a little calmer, I was able to learn more about what happened. So she had been drinking with her boyfriend, and he got depressed and decided tonight was the night he was going to commit suicide and kill his girlfriend. So in his intoxicated state, he found a gas can and started dumping it on himself and his girlfriend and lit them both on fire. It also managed to catch the house/fence/yard on fire. Both of them survived. He got the worst of the burns. The house and fence had minimal damage. Tilder 2. Guy tries to kill himself and his girlfriend with fire. Ouch. Story 3. This one was probably the hardest call I've ever taken. The phone rings and there is a little girl 8 to 10 years old. She is scream/crying, "Daddy is dead." I can't calm her down at all. She keeps crying on the line, and in the background I can also hear 2 other small girls crying. I was watching our call logs and more calls are coming in, the same are for gunshots fired. What had happened is 3 guys had decided to break into a house and thought it was empty, so they rang the doorbell to make sure. The dad startled them and they shot him. So the mother runs out to see what happened and she got shot as well. The guys took off, leaving the 3 girls aged 8 to 12 to call 911. We are not allowed to disconnect a phone until police or EMS are on scene. So my heart was breaking for a small family that had lost both parents in one sad accident. I listened to the girl for 6 minutes and 37 seconds before police arrived on scene. The good news is that the mother lived. Tilder 3 to 3 guys are going to break into a house. Dad startles them and gets shot. Mom gets shot, leaving an 8-year-old girl to call 911. And this is the end of today's video. I hope you liked it, and don't forget to comment an anecdote or experience similar to the topic of the video. Leave your like, share if you liked the video, and lastly, don't forget to activate the little bell so you don't miss any of our daily videos. Bye-bye.